Hey, buddy. Okay. All right. You want to help me out with this? Yeah? Yeah? Thank you. Thank you. I could not have done this without you, bud. That's my boy. He's a good boy. So, this is my first time doing something like this, but I just wanted to do an off the top recording, perhaps a little bit more long form, talking about a little bit of my experience and some of the things that I think are critical to my personal growth and recovery, and then kind of translate that into things that I try to put out there into the world. So I made myself a cup of tea because caffeine, too much caffeine tends to fuck me up later in the day, and I used to have really bad sleep problems. So when I think about my mental health journey, I mean, I was unwell from a very early age. I was restless. I was incredibly uncomfortable in my own skin. I was prone to having like emotional outbursts and panic attacks, but there was like not too much actually going on. We're talking like when I was like a little kid, right? So there wasn't enough going on in my life at this point to warrant those kind of reactions. And basically what I deduced from that was that I was just a really sensitive kid and I was really emotional. Now, my mom got sick when I was young. She was diagnosed, well, at first misdiagnosed, but then diagnosed with emphysema. And a lot of the attention in the home kind of got like focused on her. I'm an only child. My parents are a bit older. And my dad had quit his business to start taking care of her from home, which left me feeling incredibly kind of like isolated and lonely. Now, I also wasn't a cool kid. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I had a really difficult time making any sort of like lasting connection with people. Throughout my late childhood and adolescent years, because I also had some like behavioral problems coupled with the emotional bullshit, like I would hop from group to group just trying to like fit in, really just looking for any sort of meaningful connection. Now, it worked temporarily. Like the chameleon thing is a very effective kind of tool and was helpful for me in that like emotional survival mode that I was in. Just trying to get people to like me. That's really all I wanted. I desperately wanted to be liked by my peers. And I would make these connections here and there, and like I would make friends, but then like the darkness came out. And I know that sounds hella dramatic, but it's the truth. Like there would always be this underlying insecurity or fear or just like emotional sensitivity that would spill out around me, right? And after a while, I found the best way to cope with that was drugs and alcohol. And that's a whole separate tangent that I don't want to go down in this particular video, because the main thing I want to talk about is loneliness. I'm not going to sit here and do what so many other people do and just like force feed y'all stats about what male loneliness looks like. Hey, buddy.
What? There's nobody here. Why are you borking? What are you doing? You just want attention? You feel left out?
I'm not going to do all that because like you can do a Google search and find that. And there's probably a lot of other really wonderful creators out there putting out that good information. The information I'm putting out there today is just a little bit of my own experience. Throughout adolescence, I was desperate for connection, desperately trying to fit in, change my look, the way that I talked, the things that I lied about doing, like hobbies, because I didn't like play sports and I wasn't that active. I really just like smoked a lot of weed and drank and like partied. And a lot of it I did by myself. And when I was fortunate enough to be invited to something on a rare occasion, I kind of fucked it up. I would have these like huge like emotional outbursts and like I was just really reckless and destructive with my behavior as well. So naturally I was pushing people away. I wasn't that likable at that time. Now, in order to do like this massive reset we had a recruiter from the Marine Corps come to school one day, or he was coming for a while. But like I saw this dude and he looked great and he sounded great. He sounded like super confident and comfortable in his own skin. And he was like this big, tall, like jack dude named Sergeant Nathan Boychuk. And if you end up watching this video for some reason, dude, thank you. You saved my life at that time. And I saw a couple other people in my cohort in school that were joining the Marines, and they were like really popular and people seemed to really like these people. So really, I was just like, fuck, dude, I'm kind of spiraling out of control. I need some sort of like dramatic protocol to like change my life. So I figured like joining the Marines was it. And I really did it hoping that I would finally feel accepted by my peers and by people around me, and to get acknowledgement from, teachers who hated me because I was a degenerate kid and just wanted attention, man. I just wanted like somebody to give a shit about me. So I figured I'd go do this thing. And I was really seeking connection and validation, and I went, and like that was one of the main turning points in my life, was joining the Marine Corps. Now, that did not solve everything, but it set the framework for a lot of wonderful things to happen and a lot of wonderful opportunities later on. Now, when I went to basic training, dude, I was inundated with culture and community. And that was like the first time in my entire life that I felt like I really fit in. It was a bond that was formed between young men who were suffering, and they were undergoing the same type of suffering, and these like radical adjustment periods and this lifestyle change and this esprit de corps and like all these like really, attractive things that were happening and being taught to us. And we like felt like hyper masculine, and we had like a code of conduct, and we were told we were warriors. And like, dude, like nothing makes you feel more connected than a radical group like that. So it was remarkably helpful, but even that dissipated over time. And I met some wonderful friends while I was in that I still have a lot of love for to this day, albeit we don't speak that much. But even throughout the course of my enlistment, I grew progressively more lonely and isolated. And a lot of it was tied to my alcohol consumption. And I just had a gnarly drinking problem. And that kind of perpetuated this state of loneliness. So even in this like thing that I had signed the dotted line, swore the oath, did the thing, I still felt incredibly lonely. And I was even having thoughts of like, if I kicked the bucket, who would really care at this point? And, my family, my extended family wanted nothing to do with me. I had a good relationship with my dad, but he was far away and he was sick with Parkinson's at the time. And I just felt like I had no support, right? So then again, I found myself incredibly lonely and isolated and drinking to cope with that lack of connection, that lack of love in my life. Now, that all came to head when I got my last DUI, and I was 21 years old. And yes, I say last DUI, there were a few beforehand. I was driving through the main gate on Camp Pendleton 7 days after my 21st birthday, and I got booked, right? They caught me. They were like, "You're fucking drunk." And I was like, "I am not." And they're like, "Breathe here." And I did that. And they were like, "You're drunk." And I was like, "Okay." So that happened, which the only reason I'm saying that is because of that incident. I was sent to rehab. It was a 35-day all-military rehab down in San Diego. SARP alumni, if you watch this, what up? I hope y'all are doing well. And what they did was they took me to like 12-step meetings, recovery. Now, that was the second time that I had felt like I truly belonged. And it was at my first meeting of AA that somebody, his name's John, he shared about the loneliness that happens when we're drinking the way that we're drinking. And he talked about being in this metaphor of like, if he were in a John party where everybody was there to support him and love him, he would have felt completely alone and isolated because nobody understood the way that he felt, right? They might have related to circumstance or had common interests, but nobody truly understood him until he found himself in recovery meetings. And that was the first time that somebody had articulated, aside from like maybe a Linkin Park song, that I like this feeling of loneliness that I was suffering from and was chronic my entire life. His vulnerability and the vulnerability of other men eventually allowed me to open up and to be vulnerable myself. And that was the first time in my life that I was able to truly be myself. You know, the Marine Corps, that was like built on spirit and culture and community and brotherhood and like a shared mission. But this was a shared experience. And that allowed me to connect with people in a way that I never had before. And this was the first time that I just like bared my soul to these people. And they were like, yeah, word, me too. And that was the cornerstone that changed my entire life, right? That connection that I had with other men that allowed me to truly be me and be unreserved in my confessions of self and my lived experiences and my fears and my doubts and my points of shame, you know, the harm I had done to others, and also like my hopes, dreams, and like the things that I learned about myself that I liked. And it's the only place that I ever felt truly connected. And I feel like since then, I went into the mental health field in some way, trying to like give other people that same level of connection, right? And that same level of like rootedness and relatedness. And it's incredibly difficult because we live in such a tech era and we're all incredibly isolated and alone. And what I've found is that when people have other people that they can be truly themselves around and create some sort of community that's cultivated on shared values and lived experience and a genuine desire to be useful and good in the world, remarkable change happens. I wish I could just snap and have everyone achieve the same level of connection that I found in the rooms of recovery without the cost of entry, the price of admission, so to speak, which is like the suffering of that illness. But it's incredibly difficult. So in this mental health content creation therapist journey, I've largely focused all my efforts in trying to bring more connection into people's lives, because it's not only what saved my life, but it's what changed it too. It's what made it worth living again. And, you know, now I'm at a place in my life where I have wonderful, meaningful connections with people, not only in recovery, but like in the veteran community and even outside of that too. I've learned and developed these skills that were once oriented toward people pleasing and just trying to fit in, and reframed them in a way that now allows me to connect with people on a really meaningful level. And, you know, if it wasn't for the people in my life, I would not be who I am today. And to steal the words of Dwayne Knoll, like, I like me today. And I wouldn't buy me a beer per se, like he said, but I would like buy myself a cup of coffee today. And I think that in my professional life is really what I'm working toward, is to help people develop a meaningful relationship with themselves and with the people around them, especially people that are locked into this like hustle culture, you know, grind culture nonsense and like alpha bro fuck shit that's happening. Like, we're more disconnected than ever. And all that perpetuates is even more disconnection, because you're focused on getting the better of somebody rather than connecting with them. I think we all need people in our life that see us for who we truly are and accept us and encourage us, but also keep us accountable. And this is what I feel like my why really is to help people connect with other people and themselves in a meaningful way. You know, hopefully sharing a little bit about my experience has been useful for you or for somebody else, because I feel like that's how we truly connect. That's it for now. Stay tuned, as my dad used to say, and we'll see what's next. Thanks for listening.